Welcome to Professionals and Coffee, a volunteer collective for brewing networking opportunities. I'm Carolina Salinas, founder and host of this initiative. In this episode, Professionals and Coffee, we'll talk about communication in urban landscape and its scope with Kim Graham, president and founder of kg&a, communication strategy firm, specializing in the urban landscape. And as a co-host today, we have Tanya Kumar, an international postgraduate student from Seneca College. Welcome to Professionals and Coffee.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. I've been waiting for this conversation for some time now.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here because I'm really passionate about, I think, the power of communications and PR in building better relationships between people and building better cities. So I'm really excited to share that.
Okay, now I start with your first question, Tanya.
Hi, Kim. Again, as I said, I am really excited to be here today and I've been waiting for this conversation. So first of all, if I'm not wrong, you used to work for City Hall. I just wanted to know, how did the journey of real estate and urban planning start? What inspired you exactly?
Good question. So I worked at the city. It's true. Before the city, I actually worked for lobby groups in like race relations and other issues, equity issues in the city. And then I worked in community relations for the city of Toronto. And I realized like really early on, the most important thing in having impact was being heard. And I got interested in this. I was like, how do I get heard more? And so I dove into like thinking about, how do I write a shorter sentence to grab attention? How do I get to the decision makers and be in front of them? How do I use the media to influence opinion? And so this really like drove me and like grew my passion around PR and the possibilities of PR and what it could do and the power of it. And then I took that and I applied it to urban design, urban development, planning, real estate, architecture. And it really is the passion of being able to impact change. And these people, these city builders, the developers, the architects, the planners, the municipalities, they are the people that we want to be at the table with to impact change. And so the best way was to have them as clients.
So isn't it a little riskier to pick a niche when you're starting your own firm? I mean, there are always risks in entrepreneurship, and then eliminating most of the areas to focus on one. Like, how did you manage that?
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's a really good question because like I ended up in real estate, but it's not where I started.
Oh,
So when I went out on my own and had a PR firm, I did like food and I did fashion and I did like interior design and all these things, trying to figure out like what was going to like really stimulate me. And I had a client who was a furniture store in Liberty Village, and they had an issue and had an opportunity to talk to the developer who owned the building. And I realized at about this time, like they were talking about like 18 years ago, that real estate development was really growing in Toronto. It was going to be this huge, like massive mushroom of an industry that it is now. And it was completely underserved. So I used the opportunity of this introduction to this real estate developer to just like jump right in. And from there, we've grown the business through word of mouth almost exclusively. And I would like to say that we like have grown it like in this ecosystem that is, it started with real estate developers, but then it was their architects that were their vendors, and then it was their planners, and then it was the economic development divisions that in municipalities and the BIA. So it grew very organically. But I never really thought about it being like a sort of small sort of limiting thing, because we've now grown it across Canada. We've grown it into North America, into the US, in other markets in Europe, in Asia. So there is kind of no end to it, really.
I can understand, like there is actually no end. Everything is developing anyway.
Yeah, it's true. Everything's connected.
Yes.
And it's really interesting to be in an industry where you understand all the facets of it. And so when you understand all the facets of it, you can just grow it without limit, in a way.
And I think that now with all this immigration and it's growing more, right? Canada is getting more people.
Toronto's the fastest growing city in North America.
Yeah.
And one of the fastest in the whole world. Yeah. The opportunity is endless.
My first question that I have for you, Kim, is what does a normal day in the life of Kim look like? If we including yourself watching as an outsider, how would it be?
Well, my day has changed a lot, I have to tell you. So when I first started, I had a young child. And so I would get up at like about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I would make breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Maybe do a load of laundry, and then write a press release, all before I would get him breakfast and get him out the door. And then I would be doing meetings all day, running around, all those things. Now, kg&a is a bit bigger. kg&a, my son's a bit older. kg&a is a bit bigger. And I have a leadership team, and I have a partner, a business partner. And so I still start my day off really I'm hardcore about this, and I want to have head down work. I want to have creative time that's quiet and that is not disturbed. So I don't take meetings until 10 a.m. And I use that time, really, it's like I could be creating a new strategy for a division, or I could be, just writing in my journal. But the creative space is really important for me as a leader and as someone in this industry. And then I head right into all the meetings like everybody else does. Sometimes I'm bouncing from boardroom to boardroom, but often I'm just sitting like this on a screen like everybody else in the world is. Sometimes in my office in Hamilton, sometimes in my office in Toronto, sometimes in my office in my kitchen, which is where I am right now. So it's not a lot of glamour. And so from the outside, it would look like I'm just talking all day. But what's most interesting about the talking all day is the quality of conversations that I'm having. We have these long-term clients. We don't cycle through clients. We don't have 3 and 6 and 9 or even clients that last a year. They're clients that are 10 years and 5 years old. And so we're having these really complex conversations about big city issues that, can range from things like the well that we launched in December, but we've been working with them for 8 years on just that project. To things like right now we're creating a city up at Downsview Airport. It's going to be a city within a city. It's like a city the size of Guelph, the same geography as downtown Toronto. Nobody even knows about it. It'll be 100,000 people. So we're talking about complex issues and really wrestling with our clients on what the strategy should be. And what the communication strategy should be to support that when it's really sensitive. So I look like I'm just talking, but we're involved with some of the biggest things that are happening right now in the GTHA, and some of the biggest things that are happening actually around the world. So.
Well, it sounds very interesting because, yeah, you are generating changes in our landscape in this city for future generations.
For future generations, exactly it. Yeah. So it's really fun to be right involved with all of that. I'm never bored, ever.
I imagine that every day is different for you.
Every day is different. And then we do crisis comms. Grace's comms is like a total beast. You get a call at 9 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock in the morning, and suddenly your whole day flips. And you're on the phone with the news departments and that, anyways, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. As much as it's interesting, it's also inspiring, I believe. And now that we know why you chose real estate and urban planning, I would want to know, what do you think is the future of this generation of this sector for the new generation of communicators?
Yeah, such a good question. Well, today we saw 47 radio stations shut down by Bell. We saw CTV shut down their noon and their 11 o'clock broadcast almost exclusively across the whole country. And so like there is no doubt that the traditional media landscape is changing dramatically, right? But it's been changing for 10 years. So it's not a new change. It's just a constant change. And so the one thing that we think about in terms of the future of all of this, I think, is that like, I think that it's all connected. It's all content. We lead with the content. We lead with the idea. The channel that it should travel on is agnostic. The channel, in fact, is like a lever you pull depending on who you want to speak to or what the issue is or what the narrative is. But we lean more into the story and into the narrative and into the strategy piece. And we don't worry so much about the channel.
And recently, you just told us that one of the radio channels shut down, and then there recently a big traditional newspaper shut down. It's a lot of newspapers, like local newspapers. So, do you think that we'll be losing traditional media completely anytime soon because we are changing so fast, so rapidly?
Traditional media. Yeah, I think we have already lost traditional media, is what I'd say. You know, when I started working in this field 20 years ago, the journalist, was a celebrity, someone you knew, someone you looked, someone you read. They had 2,000 words once a week. It was a column you look forward to. That format doesn't exist anymore. So I'd almost say that traditional media is already gone. And we're in this kind of like mushy hybrid model right now. And that will morph into something else. The thing about being in communications, I think, is that you have to be ready and resilient to change because it is constant. It is like literally baked into the DNA of what communications is. That
And
helps.
And how was your transition from, a very media, like print-based form to now having digital as a core part? Like I remember you
Good
telling
question.
me that digital wasn't even a thing at kg&a a few years ago.
Okay, so I'll sort of give you a little bit of a precursor that predates that. So we, have a lot of architecture clients, and architecture clients, really high profile architecture clients, love to have their projects in print, right? Like it is like a thing. It's like an ego thing. So like about 10 years ago, we had to say to them, like, guys, no one's buying those thick architecture books anymore that are coming out quarterly or whatever they are, because they cost $20. But this same publication has a weekly or a daily newsletter, and we can get your project in it. So that was digital media in a way, right? That was digital media. We fought that battle. We fought it. We said, like, with this opportunity, there's no more border. You have the whole globe as your marketplace. They reluctantly kind of followed us because they love having pictures of their projects on their coffee table. But they got clients. They got clients in other markets. Their projects started to appear in other markets, and they started to realize the power of it. So it, in fact, can be such an eliminator of like the sort of box limitations that you can think about in terms of yourself and content. So our transition to digital is in that same kind of ethos. It is actually an enabler. Allows us to grow an audience. Where do we need to? There's no limit. We don't have to actually necessarily just think about traditional media. We now have a much bigger toolbox that includes influencers. Let's say there's influencers that we need to reach in Houston, right? So it's a much bigger group, but the media outlets, the number of media outlets are very small. So instead of looking at it as a negative and a trade-off, we think of it as like a broadening of our scope.
That's a really interesting perspective you gave us today.
Now that you have talked about the real estate throughout your years of experience, have you considered exploring or trying other sectors or areas that caught your interest throughout all these years, but within the realm of communications?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So we have done other things. We have done retail. We have done hospitality. We've done everything from art and placemaking to fitness to consumer goods. They have some type of relationship to urban development in some way. We're always looking for, is this a good opportunity for us to learn something new? Is this a good opportunity? Like, will this person be a good partner? Or will they be a good partner for our other partners so we can grow our ecosystem? We're doing a lot of work right now in labor, which is kind of interesting, because they build the cities, right? And so it's like it's a whole other layer that we're sort of involved in. But then it connects to our projects because the labor and the unions that we're talking to are building the well, or building these other big master huge projects. So we're looking at it from that sort of perspective always. But I'm not going to lie when I say we enjoy the depth of knowledge that we have in the sector that we have. A lot of people that work at kg&a come from other areas. They come from planning, they might come from law, they come from other areas. But we have this common love and belief in cities and the possibilities of cities. So we haven't even started to scratch the surface of what we can do in that field yet. So
And I think that your clients and your sector, it's huge and it's very important and just a few agencies, and or maybe you are the only one. I don't know. So yeah, good kudos for you.
we're the largest one in North America of our kind. And so like people worry about a niche being a limiting thing. And I think it's an interesting perspective, but to flip that, if you love what you do and you focus on the work, really focus, the money and the growth will come. If you focus on the growth, you're not focusing on the love and the work, it's harder.
Yeah, totally agree with you.
Yeah.
So, okay, you are a person with such a strong personality, which is one thing I admire about you. And I wanted to ask that, did you ever feel that you had to face more problems or difficulties because of the personality you carry? Or sometimes society is intimidated by strong women and tries to make it more difficult for them. So, did you experience that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I started when I was a young woman in this field, and with a strong personality that I have today. And my industry that I'm working in, and especially working with development, very male, super, super male. So the misogyny was off the charts, like all the ways that they could intimidate me, they could undermine me, they could try to take away my power. I remember a client one time in the middle of a boardroom, in the middle of a whole bunch of people, asked me just point blank when I was trying to do a presentation, if I was a member of Ashley Madison. Right? It's just horrifying, some of the things. But here's the thing. I believe in what I do, and I believe in myself. And so over time, as I got a little bit older, that strong voice, I leaned into it completely, and it became leadership. It just morphed into leadership. And it turns out that that leadership and that confidence attracted more clients because they needed to be led. So never let anyone rob you of your voice, is what I think, ever.
Wow, that's a really good advice, which I think a lot of girls and women who are trying out need to hear.
Oh, so much, so much.
Yeah, it's very hard when you have to work among surrounded among men.
Oh,
Yeah, because it's completely different when you are surrounded with women, right? You need to speak out by yourself to demonstrate, and there are topics like sexism. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's totally true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would be your best advice, Kim, to someone newcomer, like in this case, for instance, for Tanya, interested in pursuing a career in communications in real estate?
Yeah. Okay. So, jump in. Jump right in. Don't hesitate and jump right in. A lot of times, I think people that are new to a field are worried about the fact that they're not experts. And like, and that intimidate, and that sort of like, you look at someone like me or somebody else who's been in it in 20 years, and you're like, I'm not like them. And so it's not going to be right for me. But you have to understand that me and everybody else like me, we were never experts either. Like, we weren't experts. We had to learn it one step at a time. You learn by doing. You have to jump in and you have to start learning. And then never worry about failing. Like, never, ever worry about failing. Failing is fantastic. You will learn something. Worry if you're not learning. That's the only thing you have to worry about. The other thing I'd say is, so jump in, don't be scared, don't hesitate, don't worry about knowing anything, fake it till you make it. Just learn and learn and learn one step at a time, and be brave. And then the other thing I want to say is, a lot of people in communications never think about a career in real estate because they think about food and fashion, and they think about consumer goods, and they think they're kind of sexy, and they, all those things. But real estate is like a scrappy industry, and it's fast paced. And when you're marketing a product, it's worth $1 billion. So the stakes are high, and the opportunities are massive, and the budgets to do things can be huge. So people don't think about that. That's what I'd say.
Listen, Tanya, yes, it's a market with a lot of budget.
A lot of bucks, like, the product's worth $1 billion. Like, think about that. That's crazy. You're marketing something that's worth $1 billion. Where else do you get an opportunity to do that?
That's true. I understand, and even that thing, sometimes scares people. Like, oh my God, we'll be handling a project with this much budget. How can we do it? It becomes yeah. And how important do you?
I wanted to say about that, because I really want to go into this a little bit, because I think there's so much intimidation, like, with people starting out in an industry, and they think they have to know everything. And I've mentored so many people that, like, you listen actively. And when you think you have something to say it. When you're sitting in that meeting, don't hesitate, just say it. And over time, you'll start to see the patterns of how things work, and you'll start to realize that maybe you're as smart as everybody else in the room, and you have something to contribute. And that's over time. It's not all what's on a button. It's over time.
And how important do you think is networking, and what would be the best way to approach people like in these particular times? Like myself am searching for a job and it gets really hard on days when it's getting harder every day. So how would you suggest how to approach people?
Yeah. Okay. Networking is 1,000% the most important thing you can do. 100, like it's just, there's nothing else. So first thing to do, look at the organizations, the industry organizations in the sector that you want to be in. So for here, it's real estate. That's great. It's like ULI, it's Build, there's other organizations. Look at those organizations, line yourself up with a volunteer opportunity. And then when you're in that volunteer opportunity, find an opportunity to speak to someone who's a major decision maker on the board because of something you're doing at some junior committee. Loop yourself in, create an opportunity for yourself. The other thing is like, make a list of 5 people you want to work for, 5 organizations you want to work for. That's all you need. Start 5. And then contact those people and say you want 15 minutes. They'll always say yes. People love talking about themselves. You want 15 minutes. At the end of that meeting, ask them to tell you and invite you to speak to somebody else. Pass me on to somebody else. Who else should I speak to in your network? And then contact those people. Don't like just drop them. Get back, find a reason to contact them again. I have a question. What do you think about this? Look at what they're doing. I see that you're going to be at the so-and-so run. Go to the run. Work these contacts. You know, when people talk about working your Rolodex, work your Rolodex. Work yourself into a job. And then you might have like a local business in your neighborhood that's that's opening up and has no budget for social media. Do their social media. Once they start to get some traction, they'll hire you to do it. You might have a friend who has a new business, help them. Create a job for yourself before you have a job. I did this. This is exactly what I did. I did not have a job. I made a job for myself. And this was back in the 90s, early 90s in Toronto. That was one of the worst recessions ever. There was no jobs. So networking is essential.
And I have told Tanya and other volunteers that not because you have finished with your school and once you have a job, you will stop networking. No, you need to keep going, doing your networking.
And, you know, a lot of people start to network when they finish their school. Start networking is when you start your school. Right? Like, and I can't say this to lots and lots of people. You know, while you're in school, you have all sorts of organizations at your disposal. Make yourself visible within them. At the end of the year, at the end, you'll end up with a job.
Okay. Anything else that you would like to add to this coffee chat, Kim?
Okay, one last thing. I'm gonna say one last thing. There are no rules. There are literally no rules. Everyone thinks there are rules. Like everyone thinks, you know, there's rules on how you grow your career. There's rules about a certain industry. There are no rules. Make your own rules. That's it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Kim, for lending us a little bit of your time and for teaching us more about communication in urban landscape and its scope. And last but not least, thank you, Tanya, for co-hosting this coffee chat with professionals and coffee. You were amazing. Anything else that you would like to add? Where can we find you? You want to share your social media channels or LinkedIn? Where can we find you?
So you can't find me very many places because I believe PR should be invisible. This is my philosophy. But I want to just thank you guys for doing this, for putting this together. It's really great. It's really great because I think it's a source for other people who are looking for a pathway into this industry, and your passion and dedication to it is really like, I have a lot of heart for it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And what about you, Tanya?
I am looking, as I said, I'm open to work and I am very active on LinkedIn. So that is where I can be found. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Everything we do here works because of you guys. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and join our social media networks. Link the link in the description below this video or podcast. Please join us to do your own virtual coffee chat as Tanya did today. I hope you enjoy our discussion and learn a lot about communication and in urban landscape and its scope. Thank you and bye-bye for now.